If I were to ask someone from hundreds of years ago and someone in today's day what business meant to them, they would produce two very different answers. Whereas one would talk about the intricacies of producing handmade goods, another might touch on the downfall of certain electronic markets. Today, we are in an age where we are just so lucky enough to see both sides of the coin that lay spinning for a short period before turning the olden times to tails. But what if we could see both sides of the coin for a little while longer? Watch as we take a deep dive into the story of Andrew Mcdonald, an established and familiar face who practices his craft in the heart of Sydney, the Strand.
I'm Andrew Mcdonald and I'm a shoemaker. I was living and working in London and I met a guy who was a shoemaker. I was riding my skateboard on the south bank of London and this guy's name was Paul Harnden and he was a shoemaker. He made me a pair of shoes and that's how I kind of got interested in shoes. You know, I thought, God, what this sort of craft that he had, the lifestyle, that was really appealing, you know. Yeah, it was a pair of desert boots. I mean, I made a few that weren't great, but I remember it was like my first commission was a pair of desert boots. Yeah, that was great. Generally, a day starts with, you know, working on the various orders. The business is split into two parts. So we have, there's the custom made side of the business where you come in, you have a specific style or you have a foot issue and we will take your measurements and make shoes specifically for you. And then the second side of the business is we produce like ready to wear ranges, so shoes you can walk in the shop and try on. I almost threw the towel in, you know, like the first 10 years was really hard. That was a very steep learning curve in terms of having to very quickly learn the craft. You know, I'm not particularly inclined in that area, you know. I wouldn't say I am. I'm not a natural person, you know, like Matt who works with me, he's a natural craftsperson. I had to teach myself, so that was hard. So I had quite a few rude shocks to begin with, you know. It's definitely a challenging business, you know, like it's hard. The reason why this business is challenging is we don't have like TAFE or university courses you can do to learn how to make shoes. So to learn the craft, you've really got to spend time overseas. You've got to make the opportunity. And I think even more so now, one of the issues we have in footwear is that the market is driven towards trend, right? So, you know, there was a time when manufacturers would produce footwear that was like sustainable in terms of the shoes were designed to last and you would repair them. The focus of the product was the quality. You'd think like, you know, with all the technology we could be creating better footwear, but the footwear that's been created, it's it's worse than we've ever had. You know, everything is plastic. You know, sneakers are like toxic pillows. You know, like they don't last. They're not good for your foot health. You know, they end up in a pile in the sea or in some pile of rubbish. And generally, you know, they don't fit that great. There's all these people out there telling us like, you know, how you should do this and do that. And if you build this model or run your business like this or follow this strategy, you know, you know, you're gonna make this amount of money, right? Or whatever. Yeah. Just follow what you think is gonna work. And yeah, just cherry pick the little things that you think might be helpful. Just do lots of rich life experience stuff, you know? That's gonna get you creatively going, I think. And, you know, I did get offered a job to work in a factory. It was like the last remaining shoe factory here. He offered me the job and I went for the interview and it was so funny. He said, you know what, I know you can do the job, but I'm not going to give you the job. And the reason why is you've got to do what you've got to do. You know, you've got to continue with this thing. It was really great. It was the best advice I'd had, you know. He said, you're going to do this job, it will destroy you. He said, you've just got to go out there and continue doing the shoemaking. And at the time, I didn't really sort of think much about it. I thought, oh, fuck, okay, you know, whatever. But over time, I realised that, yeah, that was some of the best advice I've ever had. He just said, sit down and work hard. If you're really passionate about something, you just work hard at it. Just keep on going. I mean, really, the thing that we're trying to achieve, we do a lot of work that kind of verges into orthopedics, so people who have, structural issues. You can go, there are people who make orthopedic shoes, right? You can go there and they'll make shoes for you, they'll be comfortable. You look like Herman Munster though. The shoes are ugly. They look ugly, there's no concession to design. That's a big issue in the world of orthopedic shoemaking. So what we do is we spend a lot of time on making the shoes look good. So yeah, okay, we've got to fulfill all the mechanical needs that particular individual needs, or support, or whatever they have wrong with their foot. But our primary goal on top of that is to make the shoes look good. So what can we do visually to achieve that, And when we build a last, which is someone's foot, I mean, it's like a piece of sculpture. Well, look, I'm not retiring, right? I don't want to retire. I like my work. So I could probably see myself doing this another 20 years at least. But my assistant, Matthew, he's been learning with me for the last 5 years, and he'll take over the business from me. So this is not just dissolving when I finish, because there's too much. Not only do we have, the history of 33 years history of customers, but not all of them are going to be around, but they're going to continue into the future, and someone needs to do this work. It's important work. There'll be other businesses that, not necessarily in Australia, but in Europe. When you look at a lot of these shoemaking companies in Europe, right? They're hundreds and hundreds of years old, Yeah. And there's a reason for that, because it takes a lifetime to get good at this. You can't learn it in 10 years,
In the hands of Andrew Mcdonald, the word business returns to its roots, not in profit margins or algorithms, but in patience, intention, and skill. In a world built for convenience, we forget what it feels like to hold something made slowly, something made by hand. In Andrew's hands, we're reminded the soul of an object often mirrors the soul of its maker. And in a world of instant production, maybe that's exactly what we've been missing.